There's this invisible system all around us, a kind of silent logic that gives our whole world meaning. It's called nomenclature, basically the system of naming things. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see how this one idea is the force that turns total chaos into crystal clarity. Just think about it for a second. What if you had no words for colors, or feelings, or big ideas? How in the world would you describe the sky, or that feeling of pure joy, or the concept of justice? You'd be stuck in a world of constant ambiguity, right? Just struggling to make sense of things. Well, that chaos is exactly what nomenclature is designed to fight. So, here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the big problem that words can create. Then, we'll look at the philosophical foundation needed to solve it. After that, we'll check out the blueprint for creating order, the actual tools we use, and finally, the amazing structure of understanding that it all builds. All right, first things first. Before we can appreciate the solution, we have to really get our heads around the problem. And when it comes to language and communication, that problem can be boiled down to one single powerful word. Ambiguity. It's what happens when words get fuzzy. It's that state where a word or a sentence could mean a few different things, and suddenly, communication just breaks down. You can think of it like static on the radio. It just garbles the message. And this quote just nails it. The epistemic function part, that's just a fancy way of saying its job is related to knowledge. So the entire point, the whole mission of a naming system is to cut through that static, to get rid of the fuzziness so we can actually build knowledge together on solid ground. Okay, so if ambiguity is the problem, how do we start to fix it? Well, before we can even begin naming things, we have to agree on some really fundamental stuff. We have to lay the philosophical groundwork first. And that groundwork starts with ontology. I know, it's a big academic-sounding word, but the question it asks is actually super simple and profound. What is there to be named? I mean, you can't draw a map if you and I don't agree on what counts as a continent or an ocean in the first place, right? And think about how deep that is. When we give something a name, we're not just sticking a label on it. We're actually making a statement. We're declaring that this thing exists, that it's real, and that it's now part of our shared world. So once we agree on what exists, we have to make a really important commitment, a commitment to precision. And this isn't just about being nitpicky or technically correct. The source actually calls it an ethical demand. It's about respecting what you're describing and respecting the person you're talking to by being as clear as you possibly can. It's choosing to use language like a surgeon's scalpel, not a sledgehammer. All right, so our foundation is poured. Now, how do we actually build this thing? This is where we get to the blueprint, the architectural plan for creating a whole world of meaning instead of just a jumbled list of names. It really comes down to 3 key steps. First, we classify. We take all the stuff we want to name and we start grouping similar things together. Then, we create a hierarchy. We arrange those groups, maybe from the most general to the most specific. That gives the system a real backbone. And finally, we set up rules, which is like the grammar of the system, to make sure everyone uses it the same way so it stays consistent. I absolutely love this metaphor. A formal system of naming is like math, but for meaning. It gives us a logical structure, a set of rules that make sure our ideas add up correctly and can be understood by anyone, anywhere, just like 2 + 2 = 4. And what you get at the end of this whole process, that's a taxonomy. This isn't just a boring list of categories. No way! It's the grand design, the whole architecture that lets you navigate a super complex topic. It's what reveals all the hidden patterns and cool connections between ideas that you'd never see otherwise. So we've got the blueprint. Now, what are the actual building blocks? What are the tools we're going to use to construct this incredible architecture of understanding? Well, the most important tools in the box are the key terms. You can think of these as the load-bearing walls of any idea. They're the words that are packed with dense meaning, the anchors that hold the entire structure together. If you want to understand a field, you absolutely have to master its key terms. Now, this brings up a really important distinction. On one hand, you have jargon. That's the specialized shorthand experts use. It can be super precise, sure, but it can also be a wall that keeps other people out. On the other hand, you have a lexicon. That's the entire shared vocabulary a whole community uses to think and talk together. One is like a private language. The other is like a public highway for ideas. And hey, if this all feels a little abstract, think about something you definitely learned in biology class: binomial nomenclature.
Like Homo sapiens. It's a perfect real-world example of this. It's got a clear hierarchy, genus, then species. It's got simple rules, and it just brilliantly balances the big general category with the specific, unique thing. It's an absolutely beautiful and efficient system.
Okay, we've seen the problem, we've laid the foundation, we've looked at the blueprint, and we've got our tools. So, what have we built? What's the grand finale? What's the whole point of all this hard work?
It all comes down to this: shared understanding. See, the goal isn't just for you or me to be clear in our own heads. The goal is for a whole community, scientists, artists, engineers, you name it, to be on the same page. When we have that, we can collaborate, we can build on each other's work, and we can make real progress. It's literally the engine of human knowledge.
And that's why this idea of a social contract of thought is so perfect. A nomenclature is our shared agreement. It's us saying, okay, we're all going to use these words to mean these things so that we can actually think and build together. Without that agreement, everything just falls apart. So what's the ultimate goal? The holy grail, if you will? It's a system with zero ambiguity. Can you imagine that? A language so precise, so clear, that misunderstanding becomes impossible. It's a radical idea, and maybe we can never fully get there, but it's an incredibly powerful target to aim for. Because when we do this right, when we really strive for that clarity, something incredible happens. The simple act of naming something transforms into the much deeper act of truly knowing it.
And that brings us to this really powerful conclusion. When our systems of naming are built with real care and precision, clarity stops being just a technical thing. It becomes, as the source puts it, the moral geometry of thought, a way of thinking that is not just well-structured, but also true and good. So I'll leave you with this to chew on. In your job, in your hobbies, whatever you're passionate about, what are the hidden naming systems? What are those unspoken agreements on what words mean that lets you connect and create and understand the people around you? Once you start looking for them, I promise you'll see them absolutely everywhere.